I'm Shivani Gupta, and welcome to the Ask Shivani podcast. I believe that one of the best presents that you can give yourself is time to be able to sit down and ask yourself some questions. I believe that the quality of the questions that you ask yourself will determine the quality of your life. Good morning, everybody. This is the Ask Shivani podcast. I am so excited to have Jeffrey Klubeck. He has been recommended to me by many people to be on this podcast, and we're pretty excited to have him as a guest today. Let me tell you a little bit about it, and then we'll dive deep into the questions that we've got and to gain some wisdom from Jeffrey. He's an upbeat and charismatic coach and consultant, and he focuses on how to make businesses and entrepreneurs thrive while not losing a sense of what makes a company outstanding. And that is leadership. Absolutely key for the audience that we've got here. Jeffrey is also a successful author. He's worked with small, medium, and large-sized businesses. Jeffrey, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, look, that's it's so great. And so we want to know a little bit about you, a little bit about your context. These are all the things you've achieved, but tell us a bit about challenges you've faced. Tell us a bit about adversity you've had. Give us a little bit of an insight into the journey that you've had.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just growing up, I mean, to start off with the joke, although my children are doing a really good job, it's hard to raise your parents. And, a challenge that I've been through recently is I lost my parents 3 weeks apart in September 2020. And what a beautiful story. They were in love. They were 54 years together. They couldn't imagine a life without each other. So that romantic part where they're together, right? It's really cool. And that's like the greatest thing. Like, so, but that's all they had. They didn't have the ambition that I had. They didn't have the drive. They didn't have the motivation. They just, I don't say this as a judgment, but it's something that I had to overcome, right? I remember first of all, before I almost dropped out of college, I remember when I was going in college to use my meal card in the dormitory, and I swiped my card and it didn't work. And they told me, I'm standing there and there's the line and all of my peers, and I'm 18 years old. And the person says to me, "Oh, your card doesn't work. The pay, you didn't make the payment." And somebody like, "Well, I'll pay for you." And just, I'll never forget that feeling, that feeling. And, and it's tough because, as a youngster, you want to be like, "What's going on? Why didn't you pay?" and everything. And for some reason, I had to, overcome that and be compassionate and just constantly just work to be a person my parents can be proud of, right, rather than anything else. But my brother, he's got the biggest heart in the world, but he's not that ambitious either, right? So I'm the only one to go to college. I'm the only one, to do certain things. And so I'm still, overcoming that challenge every day, trying to make mom and dad like really super proud. And then, the next year, after I figured out how to eat, there was no money for tuition. And I remember I had a job on campus. I was doing video production on campus. I was an audio video technician, which was a really cool position, by the way, because I got to see all these other classes. I was doing video for psychology and information decision systems and bargaining and negotiations. They were coming into the studio and getting live shots done, or I was wheeling the cart across campus to shoot courses, or participating in the editing of programs for what was going to be the future in the information age. So that was a really cool job. But I remember that there was no money for tuition. I didn't have the money. My parents didn't have the money for school tuition. I remember telling my boss, "Hey, you want to start looking for a replacement for me because I can't afford to register for school. I'm going to go home and deliver pizzas." And be patient with me as I tell this. It's hard to tell this story without choking up. But the next day, my boss took me to lunch like he normally does, but instead of going this way, we went the other way. We went by his boss's office, and they both took me to lunch. They sat down and I'll never forget, "Jeff, what will it take to register? Do you know that you can still work for us if you're part-time? What's the fee for part-time instead of full-time? If we lent you the money to stay part-time to keep working for us, would you do it? If you drop out, you may never get back in. Plus, we believe in you. We want to keep you. We see a future for you." And that chokes me up, right? Because I was 19 years old, and I had to go home and call mom and hear her voice, and she was so sad that she didn't have the money for me. And I remember telling her as a 19-year-old, I said, "Don't be sad that you can't do it. Be proud that you raised somebody that other people want to invest in. Like, there's people that want to invest in me, and I want to say, yes, I want to do this. Do I have your blessing?" Very heavy thing and it still chokes me up today. So I want to make mom and anybody that's invested in me ever, like, really proud.
That is beautiful, Jeffrey. I love the fact that you said to your mum, you raise somebody that somebody else wants to invest in. That is beautiful, beautifully put. And so when you've had all these, challenges coming your way, different people deal with it differently. Some people put their head in the sand and they don't come out. Some people have a process. Some people journal. What is your process like when you come across these challenges, not only in university, but now running your own business and being a parent? Tell us more about how do you go about dealing with challenges? Because I'm always interested in that process of what people use. They come everywhere.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm interested in that process, and I consider it like an evolution. I know that the question comes out, how do you do it, as if there's one way, but I think we have to we have to look at all 360 of the degrees to find solutions to challenges. And I'll just share a couple that come to mind. Number one, well, there's four things that come to mind. One is like look for the bottom of the pool. Like, remember swimming as a kid? It was so fun to swim down to the bottom of the pool. Like, the cool thing about it is how fast you could get back up to the top when you have the bottom to push off of. Like if somebody's sitting in the middle, at 10 feet of a 20-foot pool and they try to get to the top, they're going to have to generate all their energy and flail. If I'm at the bottom, I just push off the bottom and there I go. So when I'm challenged, the very first thing that I do is, where's bottom? Where's rock bottom? What's the worst case scenario? What is the thing that I can't go any further than that? And that I just kind of tell myself that if I get there, that's what I'll push off of. Right. But I also, have to understand that we have to, like, a concept that I call feed the kids equally. If you had 3 children and 3 sandwiches, I'm sure you would give one sandwich. You wouldn't give all 3 sandwiches to one kid, would you? No, you
Definitely not.
Okay, so the names of the children are worst case scenario, which is this bottom of the pool I was talking about. We definitely need to think about that, consider that, imagine that, embrace that as a reality, play chess with that, a couple moves ahead if that's the case, right? But if we give all of our thought to that, then that's all we're going to get for sure. So there's 2 other sandwiches, 2 other kids, and one is best case scenario, right? What's the best thing that can happen here? Is this really a challenge, or is this an opportunity? And what's the best thing that could possibly come of this? Yeah, difficult as it may seem, deceiving as the packaging may be, what's really going on here? And so I try that best case scenario on for size and see if that digests. And then, of course, we got to feed most likely. What's most likely to happen here? What are the probabilities? And so if I've considered all 3 of those, it's not so much a challenge anymore as much as I've just turned it into a game for myself. So that helps, right? And look for helpers. We had a famous, I know I'm going into Australia right now, but we had a famous TV show, Mr. Robinson, right? Or Mr. Rogers, I'm sorry, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Mr. Robinson was the takeoff that Eddie Murphy did on Saturday Night Live. But anyway, Mr. Rogers, right? He, take children's television. And he used to say, look for helpers, right? So it's important to realize that any challenge that comes my way, it's not just my challenge. I'm never alone. Like, there's always people that are ready to help, willing to help, right? All of my successes I share with others, and I can share the challenges too. Let's be mutual about the whole thing. A lot of people take things on themselves and they're so autobiographical about it. But we have to understand there's community, there's people that are ready to help, prepared to help, willing to help, and we got to look for them and they'll be there. And so we're never alone. Another thing comes to mind is just very simply the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
I love that book.
Yeah. So I remind myself that this is only a challenge because I said it was. And now what I could really do is call this whatever I want it to be, opportunity or otherwise, right? As I've mentioned. So when I think about that, I'm really not, I don't think I've ever been as challenged as Viktor Frankl was. I don't think I don't ever expect to be as challenged as Viktor Frankl was. And his book wasn't about the horrors of the Holocaust. It was about the fact that not even the Holocaust can take away our ability to decide what things mean. It's always up to me to decide what something means. And so I always got to hang on to that. And then finally, just to shamelessly, as I'll do from time to time, pre-plug my book, The Integrity Game, but retrofit myself. And what I mean by that is, a building has structural integrity if it keeps standing despite the outside forces. If it keeps doing what it's supposed to do, keeps doing what it's made to do, keep doing what it's built to do, despite pressure tests, outside forces, other people's agendas, or any form of challenge. So the more retrofit I am, the more clear I am about what my purpose is, what my gifts are, what my vision, mission, objectives are, my quarterly goals, the strategies that are aligned with my instinct, my relationship to my word, what I've committed to, the actions I'm taking, what I'm proactively learning, accomplishing, and who I'm serving. If I have answers to all 10 of those question sets, then challenges are going to blow off me like a 10-mile-an-hour wind, would a building. Challenges are going to bounce off me like, really, really, I don't know, bouncy ball. Like, if you know what I mean, the more retrofit I am, anything either integrates with what I'm doing or it bounces off. It goes away. So that's a mouthful, but how's that for dealing with challenges?
That's great. I can almost, like, when you were speaking, I could like visualize it, right? When you're at the bottom of the pool, I can visualize it. I can see that. And retrofitting, I can see this thing bouncing off. So that was a very visual exercise for me.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And so, Jeffrey, where you sit today and all the things that you might have for the future that you want to do or not do and achieve and not achieve, tell us a bit about your future aspirations. Where do you see the business, like, going in the future? What are the things that you aspire to?
Yeah, thank you. Well, here's the thing. This book that I'm holding in my hands, for those of that can see video, The Integrity Game, it is a parable that introduces the 10-point model that I just summarized. There's 10. I think integrity, most people think integrity is doing what you say you're going to do, or doing the right thing regardless of who's watching, or do the same thing when nobody's watching, when somebody's watching, right? And in my book, I say, okay, we like those answers for a couple of reasons, but here's what's wrong with that, or here's where it falls short. So let's expand our understanding of integrity. And I enter the notion of integrate, right? When we do what we say we're going to do, we're integrating word with behavior. And when we do the same thing, regardless of who's watching, we're integrating behavior with values, morals, or ethics. So in both cases, there's a coming together of one thing with another. And in both cases, behavior is the evidence of our integrity. Not I woulda, was gonna, meant to, I didn't mean to, I was just trying to, none of that. Behavior is the evidence of our integrity in both cases, and there's an integration in both cases. So I like those two answers. I've done this all around the world. When I ask people, what is integrity? How many of you believe you have integrity? Everybody raises their hand. Now, hang on, keep your hand up and repeat after me. I swear not to shoot the messenger after, right? And then hang on, before I insult you and suggest you have no integrity, what is it? And people always give me those two answers. But the thing is, when I want to point out people, and this is where the aspirations, this concept that I'm talking to you about right now, I've written the book. I'm in the middle of finishing the first group coaching program. I see future. I want to write a textbook version of this. I'm on my way back to San Diego State University. I just got the email today from the scheduler that's inviting me to teach a class and get back on campus in spring of 23. Like, this is all happening right now. So I've written the book around the 10-point model, but back to what I was saying, those two answers fall short of describing integrity. What's good about them is that we get to see integration, but what's embarrassing is that nobody will use the word integration in their answer. If I ask what is integrity, they say either be your word or do the right thing. Nobody says integrate, bring two or more things together. They start with the same 6 letters, I-N-T-E-G, right? It's right in front. Integration. So integrity is a coming together of at least 2 things, 2 or more things. So, and evidence is behavior. Behavior is evidence. So we like that. Okay, but here's where they fall short. What if I said that I was going to drink 18 Foster's Lagers before the podcast interview? And then I drank 18 Foster's Lagers before our interview today. I will have done what I said what I was going to do, but would I be able to claim integrity? And you know the answer is no. Okay. You follow? If I said I was going to get into my car and go hit the first pedestrian I saw, and then I did that, you follow? So word and behavior isn't enough.
Yeah.
All right, pin that on the board. Okay. Now over here on the other side, do you believe time is money? Sure. Do you believe patience is a virtue? Yeah. Well, do you believe that if you never quit, you'll never lose? Well, yeah, never give up. Sure. Well, do you believe you better know when to cut your losses? Oh, so what's right or wrong or good or bad, it changes from context. There's conflicting success principles. Sometimes this is the right way to go, and sometimes that's the right way to go. And by the way, who decides what's right and wrong? Who's the opinion leader, the thought leader? I'm living in a country where we got red and blue, two wings of the same bird, and they both believe in two different realities. So how would we ever account for that version of integrity? And by the way, most people are just using integrity as something they accuse somebody else of not having. So what's my future aspirations? I want to actualize the integrity game. What I'm here to say is there's more things than just those two that we need to integrate. I have a 10-point model of if we have, and it turns out to be questions, 10 question sets. And if we have answers to those questions, now we'll retrofit ourselves. So we could retrofit ourselves, our teams, our products, our services, our businesses, if we run them through these question sets and we have answers to 10 sets of questions around any noun or any object you want to retrofit, right? So that's what the integrity game is. Now the book, it has a parable, it's a made up story. I wrote it when I was coping with my parents' loss, while I was grieving mom and dad. This was during COVID. This was therapeutic for me to work on the book. There's characters in here that are named after and have qualities of my children. So there's some memoir in here, there's some therapy in here, and then there's a professional Trojan horse. You know, I'm using a story, a made up, easy to read story to get to Trojan horse this 10-point model into the world. So future aspirations, I want this being practiced as a comprehensive soft skills system in conscious organizations. And I also want there to be a textbook version of this, and I want to incubate the concept further in the university environment with students, then to get the research and the projects and the presentations and the assignments, and really just generate and actualize, optimize. There's someone that we're all familiar with, I believe, Simon Sinek, who says start with why. And if you look at his bio and his media kit, it says Simon popularized start with why. Right now, knowing your purpose has been around a long time, but Simon, he did the TEDx and he wrote the book and he popularized it. He took it to another level. I want to do that with integrity. I want to make it easy and fun to look within. I want to encourage the world to play the integrity game and retrofit themselves. I want people to use the integrity game to problem solve. I want people to use the integrity game to make tough decisions. I want people to use the integrity game to have structural integrity in their lives, careers, and businesses. So I'm going to keep doing this in organizations. I just got done earlier today giving a presentation to a physical therapy office, a collection of physical therapists, and having them, they want to grow to 5 offices, right? 2 to 5 offices. So they got to retrofit and grow. And then, so businesses and academic, I want to, actualize the integrity game in the business and the academic environments.
That is fabulous. Now, the next question, Jeffrey, literally we could speak about it for 4 hours, right? What are your philosophies? But there's a couple of other deeper questions I want to get into. Are there a couple of philosophies that you live by? And, when you're talking about the integrity game, I'm kind of assuming that integrity might be one of them, right? You do what you say you're going to do, and you retrofit and you do the bits that you need to do for your clients and your family. But tell us about a couple of other philosophies that you live by that are really important for you.
Yeah, thank you. Work hard, play hard. All right. I mean, integrate the two. One's not worth it without the other. Right. We got to see the rewards, and we got to earn the rewards, and just work hard, play hard. I mean, I don't know if I need to elaborate on that. Right. Although you talk about, if I referring to a book, I love what I learned from M. Scott Peck in The Road Less Traveled, and that discipline is the ability to delay gratification. Right? Delay gratification. Work hard, play hard isn't just a saying to excuse you to make it okay to play hard. Work hard, play hard is the work hard part comes first for a reason. Right? I want to earn my celebrations. I don't want to celebrate before I work, because I might not work as hard, might not work as much. So it's about delaying gratification. but making sure that we smell roses and that we celebrate our accomplishments and recharge and refuel and have a balance around that. Another one, you could probably tell from my behavioral style, I'm jovial. Joviality and levity. And, one of my mentors, Brian Tracy, taught me that weeds grow on their own. Weeds need no help from us, but if we want the good stuff to grow, we need nutrients and the right water, and talk to your plants and sunlight. And we have so what I mean by that is humor. I love pointing out all the humor I see in things. And sometimes, it doesn't always land. Sometimes people aren't always laughing with me, but being who I am, I'm a jovial kind of kid. I just see the humor in everything, and I'll let it fly. A lot of people I admire that they keep their jokes to themselves, but I don't do as well at that. I'm a jokester. And then, I think I've been gifted with some wordsmithing, so I enjoy phraseology around platitudes. So I have a thing called, my last name is Klubeck. So my wife's homemade cookies, or Kluby snacks, I called them. And then as I've grown in my career and I see people writing down things that I say, hey, could you say that again? Ooh, that was good. And I started like branding quotes that I would come up with, like, how you're saying what you're saying is in fact what you're really saying. So that's beware of your nonverbal communication, mind your nonverbal, right? Every job is an inside job. Right? Look within, everything that goes with that, right? So it's like self-responsibility, holding yourself accountable. One of my favorites is when there are two alphas in the room, the smarter alpha will usually defer to the dumber alpha. And I just think I'm making myself laugh. Thank you for laughing with me. But it's like, hey, you go ahead and trip all over yourself. You go ahead and fall on your face. Like the energy it would take to beat you right now is going to take me further away from what my goal is. So you go ahead and have it, young man, or whoever you are, right? Anyway, you understand? So that's the wisdom thing.
Yeah. And
pick your battles wisely. And so what I'm really enjoying, right, is that I feel like I'm like connected to source on a lot of these universal truths. And then I'm gifted with a wordsmithy, phraseology, like a musical, rhythmic vocabulary to, like you said before, help people visualize and help people feel what I'm supposed to be messaging.
Yeah, beautiful.
I can keep going.
Oh no, like as I said, this is a big question. Like we could spend hours just talking about that. Now, one of the things you spoke about is, and you help leaders and you work with entrepreneurs. And so what do you do for your own wellness? Like, how do you keep your cup full so that you've got the energy to be able to do the work and the presentations and, go and speak at colleges, etc. So what do you do for your wellness? Share that with us.
Yeah. First of all, I don't always keep the cup full. I'm a human being, and sometimes I burn it at both ends. And right. So there's a good friend of mine who once said balance is BS. Right. Like, and I think it's important to understand balance is good if we can get there. Balance is power if we can get there, on and on. But we have to recognize that we're human beings. And then the other thing too is we want to be great at anything. There's going to be some sacrifices. So don't expect to be great at anything. By definition, great is out of balance. Great is heavier than average. So by definition, so if you want to be great, you have to accept the times where you're out of balance. But it's important, your question's critical, because we do need to have places that we can go rather quickly when we recognize the burnout or the fatigue or that need to recharge. So one thing I do kind of regularly, especially since COVID started, is play golf. I get out and I play golf. I know that I'm out of the house, no dogs barking, no phone ringing, no nothing for 4 hours. I breathe in, I breathe out, there's movement. I can feed two birds with one grain if I go with a client of mine or make it a networking thing. And I'm no good at it. You understand? I'm no good at it. But in the past, I used to let the fact that I wasn't good prevent me from going out. I used to be worried what I looked like, or what if I'm not good enough? What if I can't keep up? What if I'm embarrassing? And like, you want to know what? All of that's better than staying at home during COVID. Anyway, I digress. So now I'm into it. I'm hooked. I keep a gratitude journal. I think it's important to regularly ask myself, what am I grateful for? Let the answers flow and put pen to paper. So I'm in gratitude a lot of time. Physically, I think I've I got really great insights into the sleep cycle, mastering the math of sleep. Like sleep cycle's 90 minutes. So if I'm going to take a nap, I can't say I'll take an hour nap, because then I'd be waking up in the middle of REM. So I don't want to wake up during rapid eye movement, because I'll feel twice as tired as I did before, right? So I either want to nap for 20 minutes or less, or a full 90. Moreover, if I'm working, getting something done, and I'm working till 1 o'clock in the morning, it's like, oh, if I got to be up at 6 and it's 1, that's 5 hours. I know I'll work for another 15 minutes and then go to bed in 15 minutes. So I have 4.5. So I'm doing the math of hour and a half, 3 hours, 4.5, 6, 7.5, 9, rather than 8 hours of sleep or an hour nap, which would have me waking up in funky times. We could be very alert and productive and snap into action with some clarity on a 90-minute nap, more so than we could like a 3 hour and 45-minute nap.
Yeah, got it.
Do you understand? So understanding that, so very calculated about my naps and my sleep. And I think that helps a lot. And then finally, as you saw earlier in the session, it's so great. Like, I didn't expect this, but proof in the pudding, right? I allow myself to feel. I allow myself to cry. It's kind of like golf. I used to be afraid of what people would think, and I don't care anymore. I feel this, I'm going to cry. It's fun. The fun part of it is when I'm watching a movie with the kids and the family, and the kids, right? They're, you got a 10 and a 15 and a 17. So maybe a couple of years ago, when they're like 7, 12, and 14, before they're driving and they're home with us, before they're off doing whatever. Anyway, and the emotion, they know there's an emotional scene happening in the movie. And I'm like, and I feel all of their heads look to me to see if I'm crying yet. So those are some things, those are some the things that keep me well. And by the way, who knows if I'm mentally well? I don't even know if I'm mentally well. I just know that those are the things that I do, right? Because I'll admit that I'm crazy if the definition's big enough and appropriate. Like, who knows?
Yeah, no, that's great. And the people that are into the rituals and do things like around their mental wellness, like gratitude journals, like sleep, there's some of the key things around that. Jeffrey, we could keep talking forever, but there are some people listening today that will go, this guy sounds fascinating. I want to get these, these, what did you call them?
Klubby snacks.
Klubby snacks.
Oh,
I want to get some Klubby snacks. I want to check out the integrity game. Tell us what's the best way to find you? What are the platforms you're on? What's the best way for people to connect with you?
Well, it's so funny when you say, Jeff, what's your favorite ice cream? I'll say whichever one I'm eating. So the best way for people to find me is the way that's most convenient for them. So can I offer a couple of suggestions? Number one, you just send an email to jeff@getaclue.net, GETAKLU, like my last name, .net, jeff@getaclue.net. Send that to me. I'm evolving, but I still check my own email. And I'm easy to find on LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn profile, if I can I give a shout out to a friend of mine, Brian Trachel, who is a master LinkedIn trainer. So he trains organizations and dials in. And he loves me. He still does mine himself. You know what I mean? So LinkedIn profile, if you want to optimize your LinkedIn profile, be found and get the right things going, and whoever has the most words wins, and on and on and on. So LinkedIn, I love for people to check out my LinkedIn profile, because it was in good hands with my good friend, Brian Trachel. I mentioned the integrity game, and people can get the integrity game on Amazon right now. It's only $9.80. If people email me, I'd be happy to, if they mention your show and they email me, I'll be happy to email them for free a PDF version of the integrity game. So you like, before shipping, that's a $9.80 value. Thank you for laughing. If people want to check me out on live, every Tuesday night, I read one tip from a book in my Get a Clue in 52 series. So I write these books called Get a Clue in 52, where I come up with 52 tips. So I have a reason to be online once a week. And so on Facebook, if people like Facebook, you can type Get a Clue in 52, find that group, join the group, and then you might be able to interact with me live for free once a week, and we'll have a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And we're also going to put some of those details at the bottom of the podcast, so you'll be able to find me. I'm going to keep talking to you in a minute. Jeffrey, thank you. Delightful to have you on today.
Oh, thank you. I had a blast.
I'm Shivani Gupta, and you've been listening to the Ask Shivani podcast, where I got to ask some questions. Thank you so much for listening. Please follow Ask Shivani on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And if you haven't done so, please go to the Apple podcast and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. It would mean a lot. Thank you.